Mr. Speaker, we've just heard the National backbenchers prattling on about roading projects. They never mentioned the $100,000 they've just finished spending on a bridge that they've renovated that they're now going to pull down and replace with another bridge. And I think that shows something about the fiscal responsibility of the National Party. But to the Minister of Police, I want to come to a topic now. Instead of her pork barrel politicking about her own electorate, I want to come to a topic that is intimately involved with her portfolio of policing. In the Auckland region that I represent, Mr. Speaker, in the last couple of months, we've had a number of tragic murders, including the killing of two members of our ethnic communities. Blessy Kotinko was murdered after being abducted on the way home from work, walking from the bus stop to her family home. Well, the Minister can laugh about it and put it down. I happen to think that that is a tragedy for that family, as indeed is the other case of Arun Kumar, a Henderson dairy owner who was stabbed in the neck and murdered in front of his wife in his dairy just a fortnight ago. And members of the ethnic community have come to me in the last couple of weeks, Mr. Speaker, because they say they are at the front line of criminal offending in New Zealand. They're the people that drive the taxis. They're the people that staff the shops around the clock, such as our dairies. And they tell me very clearly that their concern is with the complacency of the government in terms of their right to feel safe in their communities and on the streets. They say when they go to a National Party Member of Parliament, they get told the one thing: oh, crime's coming down. Well, I'm sorry, when your husband or your father or your son has been murdered, to have the government say it's all right, crime's coming down, really doesn't wash. Actually, I looked up, Minister, your own figures from April of this year. There are 360,000 reported criminal offences. 360,000 reported criminal offences in the last year. And what has that Minister done about it? I'll tell you what she's done, Mr. Speaker. In every budget since National was elected, the real spending on policing has declined. I went to the Parliamentary Library. I wanted an independent analysis of what has happened to expenditure on policing. You know what they told me, Mr. Speaker? They said that since 2009, spending has been cut in real terms by $114 million. That's $114 million less to spend on policing, on keeping people safe. In the last year, it was $42 million. 42 million. No wonder Inspector Greg O'Connor says publicly that this year that policing at the front line will become harder for our men and women in blue. That's what Greg O'Connor said. And I asked that Minister in the committee, have you cut the number of police in the last 2 years? No, she said. And then, Mr. Speaker, I got this letter. It's a written answer to the same question from the same Minister. You know what's happened in the last 2 years, Minister? You have cut sworn deployed constables by 80. 80 fewer men and women on the street now than 2 years ago. And then I asked the question about community policing stations, because in Henderson they said, these kids who are out of control have been causing problems for months, if not years. What we really needed was a community police station. What's the National Government doing about community policing? They've cut it by 16 in the last 2 years, 3 in Manukau East in the last year alone. They've cut St Luke's, Blockhouse Bay. They've cut Mount Albert. They don't even include stations like mine in Mount Roskill, which has been temporarily closed. For how long? For 2 years, they've had a sign on the door of the station, temporarily closed to the public, because they don't have the guts to front up and say, actually, we've closed the station. That's the dishonesty of it, Mr. Speaker. They've cut spending on police in real terms. They've cut spending on police in terms of percentage of government expenditure. They've cut spending on police in terms of a percentage of GDP. They talk tough about law and order. Their trouble is they don't walk the talk. That Minister's administration of a portfolio is frankly a disgrace. Well,
order.
not a fair
Order.
question.
Order. I'm calling. Order. Joanne Hayes.
Speaker, and thank you. As the last speaker in this debate, I stand